Watch what's approaching, the supreme moment. Reality striking closer than it seems, don't it? Go ahead, it's for the taking if you want it. If not, the dream dies and you'll be forever haunted. Then confront it.
What's good? So Mr. T over on Twitter let me know about this interesting Reddit post from Dokkan91 suggesting the calculations behind the 120% monotype leads after they receive their EZA, basically with EZA stats and SA level of 15. So the passive itself is pretty much at current state, but it does provide context as to how ridiculous EZAs for these units could actually be. Now, I do have some questions myself revolving how these attack stats were achieved. For example, Tech Super Saiyan 3 Burly, if how much key spheres were obtained in order to achieve some of the attack stats, how much of the power creep with the passive skill was maximized, all sorts of questions like that do come across my mind, like rotations, how were they set up, was it double support, was it individual support, or was it a completely realistic type of team build, stuff like that. But I figured it'd be an interesting enough topic to cover it because it really does get the conversation going as to what the expectations are going into 2020 and, the potential EZAs for the 120% type lead. So let's just go ahead and talk about them individually and talk about, what the attack stats are estimated to be and pretty much what the current state is. So we'll start off with the Super Agility Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta unit. As the picture suggests, you're looking at roughly about 4.1 million attack stats. Now, going over on his stats, I mean, it's currently at super attack, causes immense damage to the enemy and greatly lowers defense. Passive skill is attack and defense increase of 120%, medium chance of evading enemies' attack, super attack, and countering with tremendous power. Now, before I get into this any further, to simplify pretty much the conversation and narrative of this video, I am pretty much going to say, EZA stats is equivalent of, on average, a 5,000 increase toward, HP attack and defense. I know it depends on the type of how much of a boost they get individually based on HP attack or defense, but to simplify the narrative, we'll just say on average 5,000 increase towards stats with the EZA. So with that being said, what was I going to say initially? Oh yeah, that's right. So with the Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, current state passive is attack and defense increase of 120%. So, obviously the passive skills are going to change and they're not going to stay the same. So how much of an improvement can you get outside of 120? That's one of the good questions, I guess, with that. But with that being said, just the stats alone and the SA15 level improved upon, you're pretty much looking at an estimate of 4.1 million with the attack stats potentially. Now moving on to the Super Tech Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku, as you can see, it's 4.6 million roughly with an attack stat calculation estimate based on the EZA stats and SA15 levels. If we go over onto the skill sets of this unit, causes immense damage with a rare chance to stun the enemy. Passive skill is an attack increase of 120%, and then additional attack 20% increase per rainbow key obtained. So it'll be interesting, I don't know, if Dokkan91, if you're watching this, hopefully you can provide some clarification as to how some of these numbers were calculated. But one of the questions I have is, how much in rainbow keys did this guy obtain in order to get that extra 20% boost on top of that 120% boost? Questions like that definitely do arise, but case in point, I mean, it's really suggestive of how broken these units might actually be with an EZA. So that's pretty much the main focal point, I think, with this video is literally how broken some of these units will actually be. Let's go on to a good one here, the Super Intelligence Super Gogeta unit. This one looks like about 3.4 million. I think considering the strength, Gogeta did an improvement and can get close to that level in terms of attack stats. I think for me, on average, when I've ran that strength Gogeta unit after the EZA, it ranges from anywhere to like 2.3 up to like 2.8 million. So considering that, I think 3.4 million would definitely be pretty reasonable for the intelligence counterpart. And for this guy, it's super attack causing immense damage to the enemy and lowers attack and defense. We'll see what kind of upgrades or changes that occur with the super attack itself, but passive skill is an attack increase of 120%, effective attack against all types. So you are looking at a pretty substantial amount of attack increase. So it'll be very interesting to see how that would actually change over the course with the EZA. Now, the Stretch Super Saiyan 4 Goku unit, this guy is already still very, very good. And you'll notice there are a couple of units within the 120% meta leads that are still very good. And Super Saiyan 4 Goku is one of them. And looking at the stats, it's 5.3 million, which is pretty damn ridiculous. So you're looking at like LR levels at that point. You know what I mean? Like it's quite ridiculous how those numbers actually look. And as crazy as that sounds, you can get this guy, I think, currently with current state, like upwards of, well, I'd say up to about 3 million. I think with the best case rotational setup, you can probably achieve those levels, especially considering you have pretty good categories like Kamehameha and Goku's family. So with that being said, 5.2 is still a pretty extravagant number, but you never know with this guy because he is quite good still. And with the super attack, this guy is just ability to cause immense damage and then defense increase of 30% for 6 turns. However, the passive skill is an attack increase of 150%, along with a medium chance of evading enemies' super attack and countering with tremendous power. So the attack percent increase with the passive is already very good as it is. It'll be interesting again to see what kind of changes they recommend or suggest or actually implement with the passive skill percent already pretty good at 150%. So yeah, it's you know, the more I look at these stats, because I only looked at these briefly, but it's going to be a crazy 2020 year if this actually does happen. And by the way, I did see something that I'll mention here in a little bit, but I guess Dokkan 91 did cover that in terms of key obtained by Super Saiyan 3 Tech Burly, so we'll cover that in a second. I just noticed it, but sorry to get off tangent, but let's get back on point. The next one is going to be the Super Physical Type Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks unit, and as you can see, 5.1 million attack stats with the 11 key super attack. And yeah, that is also very, very, very ridiculous. Now, with this guy, the super attack, so you have 3 different variations. One with the in between 9 and 10 key, and then the 11 key, and obviously the 12 key. So the 9 to 10 key super attack causes immense damage to enemy and greatly lowers defense. Looks like the 11 key is massively raises attack for 1 turn and causes immense damage to enemy. And then for the 12 key, causes immense damage to enemy and raises attack for 1 turn. What's a passive skill? You're looking at attack increase of 120% plus an additional attack increase of 60% and then defense minus 30% for 7 turns from the start of the turn. So it'll be it'll be quite interesting to see what this guy produces after the EZA. Again, these are all like I don't want to use the word suggestive, but it is at the same time, because you know, even though it's simply just the EZA stats implemented and SA level at 15, you know, there's a lot of different variables that come into play here with, you know, how these calcs were basically determined. So again, I do revolve the question of, you know, how the rotations were set up and all kinds of different narratives. I assume that, you know, at least the, you know, attack increase creeping passive skill is maximized at whatever the maximum percent level is and, you know, whatnot, but there's still a lot of questions revolving this, so just keep that in mind. The next one is the Extreme Agility Super 17 unit, and you can see 3.9 million attack stats. I mean, that's you know, pretty ridiculous for this unit, but you know, like it's reasonable enough to a degree, I think. What's going to be crazy is once the EZA stats again are implemented, how much of an increase you're looking at further upon that. But this guy is an interesting unit because, one, the super attack causes immense damage to enemy and also greatly lowers defense. However, with the passive skills, the damage received reduction of 40%, and then attack will increase by 30% with each attack received up to 120%. So you still do get that 120% attack increase. You just have to receive pretty much 4 attacks in order to maximize that. So certainly makes sense. The damage reduction ability of 40% definitely helps. Again, with the EZA, we really don't know how much of an adjustment they're going to be actually taking place because, you know, Super Vegito is a good example of that, the agility version, because a lot of people were expecting very broken units, but at the end of the day, it was a good enough upgrade, but not necessarily broken. So they might go with a more I'm trying to think of the right word for it. More of a, I wouldn't say pessimistic, but not as broken, I guess is the only way to explain it. But, you know, it really does depend on what they end up deciding because, depending on how good these guys are, they are going to change, the functionality of the game in a way, because this is going to allow for more opportunities for people to run better teams because these guys have become essentially broken. So that's certainly a good question to ask about that. Now, moving on to the Tech Super Saiyan 3 Broly unit. So again, I did indicate and ask, how a lot of it varies on how much in key spheres that this guy obtained based on this calc. But looking at the picture, it clearly tells you that 6 key orbs were obtained. So 6 key orbs obtained is very realistic. I think on average, you can look at that. So that's certainly appreciated in that regard. I guess, in terms of not going like ridiculous with like 10 plus key orbs collected or obtained or whatever. So about 3.5 million attack stats, certainly reasonable there. And the biggest thing about this unit though is, are we going to be able to get rid of that defense reduction of 10% per key sphere obtained? Because this guy is definitely a glass cannon with that, but I guess with only collecting, obtaining 6 key spheres, it is still a 60% reduction. It definitely does hurt in definitely tougher battles. I don't know if they'll actually eliminate this portion of the passive skill, but this is definitely one of the things that hurts this unit a lot. I mean, you're looking at a pretty good super attack, immense damage, and also greatly lowers defense. Passive skill overall is pretty decent. Attack increases 100%, and then a nuking passive of where attack will increase by 12% for every key sphere obtained. Again, the only thing that really hurts this unit is defense minus 10%. Maybe they'll actually reduce it to like minus 5% instead of 10%. Maybe, find like a common ground between the two. Instead of eliminating it, reduce it from 10 to 5. I don't know, something like that of that nature might be pretty cool. So we'll see what happens. Now, moving on to the Extreme Intelligence Kid Buu unit. You're looking at 3.6 million with attack stats. One of the biggest problem with this unit is the link set. So I'm actually curious upon the EZA if they'll actually make some improvements with the link skill sets. I don't know if that'll actually happen. A lot of times the links don't necessarily change, the passive super attack and like the stats themselves do, but for the most part the links are kept alone. Now, you could certainly run across different team builds to avoid that problem. It's not that big of an issue, but it does come across that problem does come across every now and then depending on the type of team you build. But this guy's certainly good. I mean, I personally like this unit. It's just the simple fact that I don't really run him much anymore. The physical type Kid Buu is a phenomenal support, so a lot of times I catch myself running that unit on a team as a supporting role versus this guy. But the intelligence version, causes immense damage to enemy and recovers 12% HP. Passive skills and attack increase 100%, plus an additional attack increase of 70% when HP is 30% or above. So, you are getting quite a bit of a boost with this unit. And it's going to be pretty scary of what kind of final product you're going to be seeing with the EZA. That's certainly going to be... I'm very curious about that. So again, based on the stats improvement and level 15 SA, you're looking at about 3.6 million attack stats. Now, moving on to the next one is going to be the extreme strength type Janemba unit. So you can see right here, it looks to be about 3.3 million attack stats. Now, as good as that is, and that's certainly very, very good because the Intelligence Janemba is a phenomenal unit with the EZA, and I equate it to easily top 3 EZAs out of the game, even up to this point. So, with that being said, the Intelligence Janemba, he's definitely a hard hitter, but you're not looking at ridiculous amounts like 4 million, 5 million, whatever. Like, on average, I'd say with the passive active of that attack increase, you're looking at about maybe anywhere from like 2.8 million. So that's typically what I would see on a setting like that on a pretty good team setup. So 3.3 with this guy is certainly very reasonable, I think. Greatly lowers defense, along with immense damage. Very beneficial to have with the super attack. Passive skills and attack increase of 80%. Guard activated against all types. Medium chance to evade enemies' attack, including supers. So that's really where that benefit lies with this unit. And of course, with the Intelligence EZA, this guy is pretty much obsolete. I personally have not ran this unit in a very long time just because the Intelligence Janemba with the EZA is just that much better. I mean, we're talking miles better than what it currently is for the strength version. So of course, I don't necessarily feel a need to run this guy, unless it's like, you know, mono type teams type deal. But with the EZA, you know, we'll see if this unit ends up becoming better than the Intelligence counterpart. It's only fair that he does, but we'll actually have to wait and see what happens with the final product again. Now, we're saving the very last one, best one for last, because this guy is still relevant today, and I run him a lot on a variety of teams still to this point. And it's going to be very, very scary of potentially how ridiculous this unit is going to be. Now, the unit in question, of course, is the Extreme Physical Type Final Form Cooler unit. I think a lot of you guys can agree this guy is still relevant today, and chances are you run him on a lot of team variations even today. So what the stats suggest is 4.3 million. Now, you do have to keep in mind this guy has built-in passes for additional supers, so 4.3 is not necessarily going to be the single attack on that same rotation. It could be up to 3 supers in a row with that kind of attack stat. So that's why I'm saying with the EZA, if the numbers suggested are pretty close to what actually happens, that is very, very scary. I mean, 4.3 million per super attack. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the unit and close this video off. So this guy will cause immense damage and greatly lowers defense with a super attack. I love that setup personally. It's very great, especially with the built-in passive skill of attack and defense increases 100%. Launch an additional attack which has a chance to become a super attack. So of course, with the potential levels build toward you know, at least either level 12 or level 15 toward well, not level level 14, sorry, and level 11 toward additional attack. You could certainly see up to 3 supers if you're lucky. So with that being said, I mean, 4.1 million attack stats per super attack is a very, very scary thing to think about. And yeah, it's definitely going to be opening the gates of hell, as the card name suggests. So honestly, out of the group, I think, yeah, I'm probably with the common group that Final Form Cooler is probably the one I'm most excited about. However, you know, there are other units that I'm very curious about. Janemba is definitely one because of how outdated he became over the Intelligence version. So I don't know what kind of justification they'll implement with the increase itself with the EZA and whatnot. So, and you know, Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta, those guys are going to be pretty ridiculous regardless. More Goku than Vegeta, but again, it's going to be a ridiculous state of 2020 if it actually happens this year. It's going to be pretty ridiculously incredibly crazy. I can't even explain it correctly, but that's probably the best way to explain it. So I don't know, leave your thoughts, let me know what you think, and let's get the conversation going on what to expect, and we'll go from there. All right, as always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.